Our first speaker is Paul Parks, who is going to be talking to us about technical writing. Paul?
Thank you. Get started a little bit earlier because I suspect, with all being somewhat of an educational, not somewhat, it is an educational session, it's going to spurn questions and there's threat of running over. So if we can get started a little early, we have more time for questions. I myself, I'm going to break my own rule of at least 2 minutes per slide. Your next presenter will probably give you something like that because I'm trying to give you as much as possible within the 45 minutes I've got. I am not an English major. I'm not a technical writing professional. My whole career was mostly in advanced design and advanced design leadership, chief engineer. However, I got into developing this course late in my career because I saw a need, because as a technical engineer in advanced design, a lot of your job is the technical quality of the output of your advanced design efforts, and a lot of those technical outputs for advanced design are reports, and also you're always proposing for new business when you're advanced design. So I got a lot of opportunities to get trained in it through my career, but then also later in my career as I'm reading reports and drafts from very educated, highly qualified professionals and seeing the quality of writing poor. And it was exacerbated when I judged an SAE competition in 2006, and I saw how poor the writing was for students who are graduating from college. That enticed me to put this course together. I taught it at Lockheed, where I was still working. I've taught it at Bell. Since I've retired, I teach it now to universities, mainly in the Texas area. The seminar was developed to be an 8-hour seminar. I've done it as a 1.5-day seminar. You're going to get 45 minutes of it. Okay, so I'm going to really bring it down to some of the core elements of my seminar. So let's get going, all right? Get ready for the fire hose. All right, technical writing, I put this together, fall classes for technical writing. It's either sloppy, it's pompous, or this is a new, within my career, it's gotten into advertising copy mode, all right? This particular one was a Pearls for Swine. I don't know if you're familiar with that comic strip, but if you can read that, they coined a phrase which I really like, which is pompous ease, and I see that a lot in our writing. All right, here's a sloppy example. This is an introduction to an AIAA paper about heat transfer in a hypersonic flight. Okay, it's 222 words. There's nothing particularly horrible about this, except it just needs a good editing. All right, at the end of this presentation, I don't know if I'll get to it. I show you an edited version of it that gets over 100 words out. Makes it easier. The problem is that people try to read this, and you read 20 pages of it, you go to sleep. Here's a pompous ease example. A lot of this is bureaucratic writing. You get it out of government reports, and here's a classic one, except we used it in an Aerospace America. We quoted it, all right? Now, I will defy any of you to read those 2 sentences and tell me exactly what the heck that person is talking about. It sounds really educated, it sounds really official, but it's totally meaningless. All right, I've identified a couple points here of being misuse of pronouns without clear antecedents. You have no idea what's the antecedents of it's. You have no idea what the antecedents of this. That's only one of myriad of faults in this, but it is a great example of trying to sound official and educated, and the result is no meaning. The last one is an advertising copy example. I have changed some of the names to protect the innocent here. This is one of these memos that go out to the email to basically the workforce, and here is full of problems of writing that makes it look like you're trying to sell a Chevy Volt, okay? and not talk technical. And we'll talk about this as one of the elements of many problems in this, but the number one is there's no data. There's no data in that. It is fluff. All right, so people are going to read that and just skim it and pay no attention to it. So in your 2 minutes it takes to read that, or 1 minute, you've just wasted a minute of your time because it means nothing to you and you move on. All right, so the presentation objective for this short presentation is to expose you to techniques for writing in a clear and succinct style. Okay? Now, technically, succinct really is a subset of clear, but it's so important of a subset that I put it in the objective. All right. Now, a few charts of introduction before I get into some specific techniques. Come on in. Come on in. Get here late, got to sit up front. Okay, what's the purpose of technical writing? When you write something, why are you writing it? Okay? You're writing it to communicate to a reader. Not you, a reader, to get a desired result. All right, what are the results of technical writing? Well, there's only 3 kinds of technical writing. You either write a proposal, a report, or you're describing a process. That's it. All technical writing is one of those 3 things. All right, so if you're doing a proposal, you want the reader to say, you're the one we want. We're going to give you the business. If your report, you want the reader to achieve an understanding of whatever you did for potentially their future use. And a process, you want the reader to understand what they have to do to execute this process. The bottom line is the reader rules. When you write technical writing, you are not writing a diary. You read it, you think it's great. Doesn't matter. Does the reader think it's great? All right, so writing also is fundamentally different from conversation. People tend to write conversationally. When you write technically, you've got to throw conversational writing out. When you write, when I speak, like I'm speaking to you right now, look at the tools I have. First of all, the words. Always have the words I can choose. How I organize the words, what goes first, second, or third. But also I've got phrasing. I can speed it up, I can slow it down to make an emphasis. Intonation, I can go louder, softer, higher, lower, right? Gestures, I can make a point, all right? I have all these tools to communicate. Also, I get real-time feedback. I see the eyes drifting, starting to look at your cell phone, or if you got the laptop, you're looking at your email on the laptop. I can see the drift. Also, if you have questions, you can raise your hand. Please, I invite you to raise questions anytime throughout here, okay? So you get that real-time feedback. You see how you're doing. When you write, you only have 3 tools. The words you're going to use, how you organize it, and the figures. Now this is, by the way, I'll just say figures are very important in technical writing, but we're not going to talk about figures here, other than a couple words. So you only got 3 tools, and the feedback is delayed or non-existent. If it's a proposal, normally the feedback is very formal and written. And so it's a written feedback. It isn't this immediate feedback. And if it's a report, somebody may read your report 20 years from now and you're dead, okay? Or retired. Hopefully you're retired, not dead. I'm looking around this audience, I'm seeing a lot of younger faces. That's great. So 20 years, I hope you'll be a senior executive by then. Okay, but still, you don't know who's going to read and how long it's going to be. So you never get the feedback. You'll never know if that reader really got the message that you were trying to communicate. So what do? You got to test your writing. You got to simulate the feedback. You have to have a test reader and you have to edit. You never get it right the first time. When you write, the first time you write something down, there's always something you can do to improve it. All right? Never write something and send it out. Even emails, and this is a great way to practice it. You have to be your self-editor for an email. But the best way to practice this on a day-to-day basis is to edit your emails. Okay, I'll give you some techniques. But this is the important thing. You never, no matter how great you think when you write the first time, there's always something you can do better. All right, here are the features of effective technical writing. It's understandable. The reader understands what you're trying to say. It's unambiguous. Not only does the reader understand it, he gets exactly what you're trying to say, not something else. All right? Data rich. We're engineers. We put data in our writing. Grammatically correct and minimal. Every word or jewel. We are so precise as engineers. I'm thinking about, I read a book by Ann Lindbergh called Listen to Wind, about her flights with her husband Charles Lindbergh, proofing flights across the South Atlantic. In the back of the book, they have a listing of the contents that they flew with. Like, you know, a little weight statement. They kept track of fish line and hooks in case they had to land. These are ounces, all right? They kept track. They were that precise. And yet, we're taught that in our courses. Except when we write, anything goes. That goes with that sloppy writing. So every word or jewel, every word must be there for a reason. All right? Okay. Now, when you write technical writing, there's only two kinds of sentences, too. There's only two kinds of sentences. You're either describing something the author or authors did, is doing, or plans to do. All right? We did this, we did that. Or you're describing results, features, plans, or techniques of the design or analysis of the test. All right? The results were, okay? That's all it is. There's only two kinds of sentences here. All right, so that's the introduction. Now I'm going to spend a few minutes on what I call the big four. If you practice the big four, you're 80% of the way along writing effectively. Okay, so we're going to blitz through the big four. First one, active voice versus passive voice. Let me say right away, this is going directly opposed to the established historical way of writing research papers, okay? So if you do this, you're going to get some friction when you're doing research papers, but we'll get into that in a minute. All right, active voice, the subject acts via a verb on an object. For example, the team calculated the drag of the aircraft. The team is the subject. What did they do? They calculated the drag of the aircraft, okay? Passive voice, what was done becomes the subject. The drag of the aircraft was calculated by the team. Usually, the by the team is not included in the sentence. You just say the drag of the aircraft was calculated. All right? Now, technical writing often uses the same subject. If it's a report about what you or your team did, well, you or your team's doing everything. So if you wrote the whole thing in active voice, every sentence would start with the team did this, then the team did that, and get kind of monotonous, okay? So passive voice is often chosen to avoid that restatement. However, passive voice problems, first of all, every sentence has an extra word in it because a passive voice verb has a was, is in front of it, okay? So if you're page limited, you just added a page and a half of words, okay? Also, it separates the results from action. Things are just getting done. Things are just getting done. More things are getting done. Now something else got done, and pretty soon the reader's going to sleep. Okay? Also, it exposes you for grammar errors. I'm not going to go into that in this brief. Active voice benefits are shorter, livelier sentences. You see an action performed, and it becomes now you're reading a novel, except it's true. All right, it's a narrative. Somebody's doing something. You're tracking the progress of people actually doing something instead of stuff just getting done. The sentences are shorter and they're livelier. Now, how do you relieve the monotony of the same subject? All right? Well, first, remember there's two types of sentences. Active voice only pertains to the sentence when you're talking about you, the team did something. They really doesn't apply when you're describing elements of the design or the analysis or the test, okay? So first of all, half your sentences don't have this problem. Relieve the monotony of the same subject by doing something your fifth grade or your middle school grammar teacher would be horrified, and that's you change person. You can switch from third person, the company name or the design team, to first person, we, or I, okay? Matter of fact, I've seen proposals where we say, the very first sentence is we, comma, and a positive, the Lockheed Martin Corporation, comma, blah, blah, blah. You identify we with the Lockheed Martin Corporation. Now you can flip-flop throughout the rest of the document. And you don't have to use active voice sentence all the way. Suggest a ratio of 1 passive voice for every 2. You can flip-flop. Take a minute and just read this example. This is from an SAE paper fly-off competition. You had to write a paper. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. And every verb in here, every sentence is passive voice. Wrote this in active voice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, saved a lot of text. Which one's easy to read? Which one engages you? All right, got to move on. Simple tenses. All right, the other thing is technical writing describes both work performed and resulting designs and data. Past and present get all mixed up. Here's our solution. When you describe the design or data development process, write in past tense. And what I'm really saying is write naturally here. If it happened in the past, it's in the past. All right? When describing features of the design process results, those things, hey, I don't care whether you did the design 6 months ago. The design exists today. I can call it up on the screen and look at it, pull out a drawing and look at it. It exists today. I don't care when it was created. It exists today. Therefore, you just write it in the present tense. The data show, not the data showed. Okay? Now, obviously, there's an exception if some result has changed over time and you're talking about the previous result, then you have to use the past tense. Also, simple tenses. When you're technical writing, we rarely need all these past perfect, present perfect, and conditional tenses. Every now and then you do, but mostly present, past, and if you're writing a proposal, future tense. 3 tenses, really, the vast majority, over 90% of your writing can be 3 tenses. So get rid of all these goofy tenses. Has been, have been, they're the perfect tenses. The conditional tenses, could have been, would have been, should have been, all right? Just was and is. So here's an example of simple tenses. Here's the original. We got present, past, present perfect, and future tenses, all used in one paragraph. I'm describing the design here, all right? There's only one sentence here that actually has, I think, the team doing something, okay? What I've done here is just use the rule. If you're describing the design, it's present. If you're describing the effort to do the design, it's past. And here I kept it in passive voice. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You save a lot of text. All right? Simple tenses. What do you do about a proposal? One of the problems with a proposal, you're always describing stuff you are planning to do or you will do. And so, first of all, well, we will do this, and we will do that, we will do this, we will do that. It starts getting to be, I'm dating myself a little bit, like Joe Azuzu, trust me, you know, we'll do a job for you, not on you, okay? Also, it adds a bunch of words. Everything has got a will in front of it. How do you get rid of that? Well, again, write naturally. If you're really saying you're going to do something in the future, use future tense. However, most of a proposal, you're going to describe how you're going to do it. All right? In describing how you're going to do it, that's a plan. A plan exists today. It's right here. Call it up. When you're describing the plan, you can write it in present tense. Okay? So you can write a proposal document mostly in present tense when you're describing how you're going to do something. All right? And there's the example here. All right, the first 2, active voice. Second is simple tenses. The third of the big 4, only essential words. Eliminate, here's some techniques. It gets back to the every word a jewel. So eliminate unnecessary adjectives. How many times have you seen a sentence like that? We incorporated needed changes. As opposed to unneeded changes, we incorporated changes. All right? We made maximum use of. Well, I'm glad you made maximum use of. You darn well should have. We used. All right? Get rid of all that stuff. Here's one of my favorite examples from those SAE papers. 2 sets of duplicate words. The underlines in the gray text was I added. All right, so I took 2 lines into 1 line by just getting rid of all the duplication. Eliminate all these introductory phrases. This is conversational writing. This is the sloppy stuff I'm talking about. All right? Now that from the start to go about this, if you really have a list, make a list. 1, bum. Next step, 2, bum. All right? Make it obvious to the reader that you're giving them a list. All right? Get rid of all this. Here's an example that had a bunch of these introductory phrases, all of them unlined, cleaned it all up. I turned it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines into one, just a little bit over 2 lines. Same technical content. Just eliminated all these unnecessary words. Here's the 2 pages of just examples of how you can say things more in a concise manner. And again, a lot of this is the pompous ease. You want to sound official. Notwithstanding the fact that, as opposed to although, okay, this sounds official. Although is short, to the point. Okay? In the majority of instances, how about usually? All right, here's another page of it. In the absence of, how about without? Okay? Write like a 6th grader with your verb. Don't, all this stuff. All right, so that's number 3. Only essential words. Here's number 4 of the big 4. Talk technical. Now this first time you see red font in my charts. When you see red font, that means do not use. All right? Not avoid. That means do not use. Okay? Do not use adjectives or adverbs to quantify a topic. Adjectives are subject to interpretation. You're significant, maybe somebody else is insignificant. All right? It also gives the impression, I really don't know the specifics, but I think it's significant. So here are words you just do not use in your technical writing. Just scratch them out of your vocabulary. So what do you do instead? Well, here's what you do instead. You state a value, a range of values, an order of magnitude, percentage. All right? Give the reader a quantitative perspective on the data comparison. Okay? Now, there are adjectives that have an algebraic expression tied to them, such as for a defined set, you got a maximum and minimum. All right? Or least and greatest. They're valid adjectives because they have an algebraic equivalent. Majority, minority. However, remember, majority just means greater than 50%. It doesn't mean 80 or 90%. It just means greater than 50. Minority, the same thing. Less than 50. Here's an example. This is a real example. I sanitized it. This was a first draft of a response to a request for information from the Canadian government. All right, you can probably guess what the C-95 really is, but read how it first read. And I had to review this. We were going to send this to somebody. This is advertising copy. There's not a bit of technical data in here. Bunch of adjectives. Now, the better is to admit that I really don't know any data, so at least put the words that don't have the adjectives in there. All right? Now, one might say, what about unique? Well, unique means that's an algebraic number. 1. By the way, very unique. How many times do you hear that? Oh, it's really unique, very unique. Unique is unique. How can it be any less than 1? Is very unique better than unique? 1? Well, is it a half? Okay? That's an example of a word you can throw away. All right, best here is, all right, get some data in here. All right, I don't know if this data is right. I just put some into this this makes it a technical paragraph. Okay? All right, they're the big four. You practice the big four, you're on the way to writing well. 1, use active voice. And even in research papers, they don't like that because they don't like people claiming credit for their work. They want just the work to have been done so the universe knows we have a little bit more knowledge in the universe. And I say nuts to that. You worked, you did something, tell them that you did it. Also makes it more interesting for the reader to read it. Okay, number 2, simple tenses. Number 3, only essential words. And number 4, okay, talk technical. We're engineers. All right, a couple more that I want to hit. This one is almost, sometimes I'm tempted to make it a big 5. This is but I don't, because if you practice the big 4, you won't do this very much. This is avoid using nouns from verbs. This is a great way to get pompous ease out of your writing. All right? So eliminate nouns from verbs. These kind of words take a verb and make a noun out of it. State of a condition of an action occurring. And they usually have the word of behind it. Okay? Get rid of it because it makes it sound kind of stilted and officialese. So you can see here's original, measurement of, was accomplished. All right? What did you do? They were measured. Even better, go to active voice. We measured, use the balance to measure the forces. Okay? So how much more active, and this is what really happened versus pompous ease. A little bit more about it. English language, we always do this. We make verbs out of nouns. Text, 15 years ago, was a noun. Now it's a verb and a noun. Okay, email started as a noun. Now it's a verb and a noun. Okay, that's okay to make a verb out of a noun. What we get in trouble is now we turn that verb back into a noun to the process of doing whatever that verb is. Okay, so now you get sentences like prioritization of candidate options. Hey, we set priorities. That's what you did. All right, work it right on down. I hear this all the time, especially, this is an official term now for when you're trying to negotiate a contract. Definitization. And I always go, you're defining the contract. You're not doing definitization. All right? Don't do it. And I'll just show you how it's spreading like a pox. I was in my daughter's house at the guest room, and she bought some hand cream, Suave hand cream. And I noticed it's clinically proven moisturization. I had to take a picture of that. All right? And just, All right, so danger flag is any sentence with an ment of, ization, any of those. See that editing opportunity? Put the ing version of the root verb in. All right? Here's an example of just substituting ing. All right? Here was one of these, announcements that they send out that somebody's got a new job, and this is what this guy's going to do. All right? This is the original. All right? Brian now is being responsible for all these ATION ofs, ATION of, MENT of, right? MENT of. All he's doing, he's sitting around and being responsible to make sure all this stuff happened. He's not doing anything. He's just making sure all this stuff happened. All right? And all I did was just turn every one of these into an ing, and then he's responsible for leading his team, because that's what he is. He's a leader. All right? Now, read that. Brian and his team are actually doing something. All right? They're responsible for really doing something here as opposed to sitting back and watching things get done. All right. Two more things. These are two little pet peeves, and I'll be done. These are avoids. These are not thou shalt not use like the talk technical. However, there are two words that have crept in our technical language. One of them is going to ruin your life on the next chart because I'll sensitize you to it. One is ensure. We use it a lot, especially in view graphs, in message boxes. Do not use it when referring to an outcome. Engineering's not that certain. All right? If you look at that definition, that means may imply a virtual guarantee. We don't guarantee an answer when we do something. All right? What we really mean is we're providing. If we do use this technique or adopt this design, we're providing a capability. We're not ensuring it. All right? So if you're referring to accomplishing a task or executing a process, if a guarantee is inferred, okay, we're here to ensure it. That's our job. We're the inspector general of this process. Otherwise, describe what you're actually going to do to ensure it. You're going to verify it. You're going to confirm. You're going to review the data. What are you going to do to ensure it? Focus. Here's I'm going to ruin your life. Focus is a great word. It's a noun and a verb. We're dealing with optics, right? But now it has use as a noun, the focus of our investigation, an adjective, a focused effort dealing with, and a verb, it will focus on. It's being used so many times, it's getting blurred. It's becoming a buzzword. All right? There's so many other words you can use that are more specific and really tell the reader what you're doing, okay? Use those most of the time. Here's some examples from the Wall Street Journal in February. NASA Administrator Charles Bolden. What I've done here, I've crossed out the original and put a substitute. See, he's focusing on something, but it's really an emphasis. All right? And then here is, we're ensuring that our astronauts are once again launched. NASA doesn't ensure that they're launched. Their job is to regain the capability to launch our astronauts. All right? So he gives you a couple more. Oh, a key focus for the company. It's a company priority. That's more specific. Key focus is just buzzwords are nice, makes you feel good, but you really don't know what they're doing. All right, so here's a checklist of the techniques I've talked about. Use active voice, simple tenses, only essential words, and talk technical. They're the big four. As I say, you practice those and get those into your writing, you will be well on your way. And then the two others I talked about, avoid using nouns from verbs, and avoid the words ensure and focus. As I say, this is just an extract of my symposium that I give, but I blitz through some of these major elements. One other thing I want to say is technical writing, the most important thing about any document, technical document, is not the writing, it's the figures. Okay? What technical writing does is acts as a tour guide to the figures. All right? So you go to a museum, the most important thing about a museum are the pieces of art in the museum. All right? However, you can get a lot more by going to the museum by having either a written or a tour guide there to take you through and move you from one piece to the next and connect one piece to the next. All right? Provide that flow. That is what good technical writing does. And with that, I'm done here. Do you have any questions? Yes?
So, I'm so glad you did this presentation. Thank you very much. And I just had a performance review with my boss because everything's great, but there's one thing about your technical writing, and I've read lots of reports and memos. He says that I need to take the number of prepositional phrases that I'm using, reduced by at least 2/3. And I'm curious how I'm supposed to balance having detail in my technical report
Well, one thing I would say is many times two sentences are better than one. Okay? And a lot of the prepositional phrases come from of the. When we get rid of the of, something of the that, and go with the ing version, you can get rid of those prepositional phrases. Also, by the team is a prepositional phrase. Okay? If you write active voice, you get rid of all those. So, I mean, it almost, again, part of that, though, is good editing. You go through and say, is there a way I can say that in fewer words? How many words can I get out of my first draft?
And how do you decide what level of detail to go into? I mean, is that just from experience?
That is not a technical writing issue. That is an engineering issue and a strategy issue of what you want to put in the report. Okay, and there's an art to that. Again, it's trying to anticipate what the reader wants. What the reader wants, not what you want. Yeah, in the back.
So I really like how you gave specific examples. You said the 4 things that you try to explore and then the 4 things that bother you. And I find this really useful and implementing. Do you have anything else? Any other words, phrases that should be avoided or not used at all?
There are my 2 biggies. All right. There are other buzzwords. I have a whole section on buzzwords, things like state of the art. All right. What does that mean? State of the art. Sounds good. Okay. World class. This is all this advertising copy. As opposed to universe class? What? So there's several of those. It's basically getting rid of the buzzwords. Talk technical. In the middle.
Oh,
Yeah.
big charts, but I couldn't copy them down fast enough. Are they online or?
Is there, what's going to happen here?
Yes, we are recording all of the sessions today, and they will be placed on the AIAA Career Center webpage, and the presentations will be there as well for those that have them. So all of Paul's slides will be available to you online.
Can we get the extended slides as well?
No, you have to get somebody to take my course or somebody to take another course, all right? Yeah.
Now a technical writing question. Where do you stand on to versus in order to? I've been told to is colloquial speaking, and when you write it, you always say in order to.
Well, that was on the list. And by the way, those 2 charts, I stole from Lockheed Martin. So they're Lockheed Martin charts that says use to and not in order to. All right, so I'm on the to side. Write like a 6th grader. All right? Yeah.
How do you feel about use versus utilize?
Use. Write like a 6th grader. All right, thank you very much.